Dr. Zhao, the patient in room 205 is sick again. Okay, I know. Putting away his legs on the desk, and tidying up his white coat, Zhao Zhu left his office and walked to the second floor of the inpatient department. As soon as I went up the stairs, I heard the sound of things being smashed and a woman screaming hysterically. The female mental patients in other wards also stood in the aisle and watched the excitement. Several nurses could only try their best to keep the patients away from ward 205. Because these patients had problems with mental thinking, their reactions would inevitably be sluggish. In case something hit them, probably won't dodge at all. When the nurses saw Zhao Zhu, their faces showed a look of relief, because Zhao Zhu is a doctoral student at a well-known medical university in the United States. Although he has only been in this hospital for less than half a year, his ability to handle and treat mental patients has already been recognized by the hospital. Unanimously approved by the patient's family. Moreover, Zhao Zhu, a patient who was tossing about when she was sick, could quickly calm her down. Since Zhao Zhu came, the nurses also felt that their work was much easier. Zhao Zhu pushed away the female mental patients in front of him, nodded towards the nurses, and then walked directly to room 205. Just as he reached out and pushed the door open, a spittoon was smashed out. Zhao Zhu's reaction was very quick, and the spittoon smashed against the aisle wall. Fortunately, the rules and regulations in the hospital are relatively strict. The ward is cleaned every morning. Otherwise, if there is overnight urine in the spittoon, even if the spittoon is avoided, the yellow liquid cannot be avoided. After a clear cough, Zhao Zhu entered the ward and closed the door. The patient was a 19-year-old girl named Lily. The girl was going to college well, but she was caught by a few ruffians one night, and then went crazy. After she dropped out of school and returned home, her family couldn't control her. When she was sick, she could only be sent to this psychiatric hospital. Ah! Don't come, don't come, don't come! Lily saw Zhao Zhu approaching step by step, and after smashing the quilt in front of her, she found that there was nothing to smash beside her, so she could only hold her head in her hands, squatting on the ground and screaming hysterically. Seeing the girl's pitiful appearance, Zhao Zhu didn't have any intention of pity and cherished the jade. He walked over, grabbed Lily's hair with one hand, and lifted her whole body up. Lily only felt a sharp pain in her scalp, and she burst into tears. She grabbed Zhao Zhu's arm with both hands, hoping to relieve her pain. Normally, when a mental patient is admitted to the hospital, their nails will be trimmed regularly, so no matter how hard Lily's hand is at this time, it will not hurt Zhao Zhu. Boom! Zhao Zhu threw Lily's whole body onto the hospital bed directly, and then pressed one leg on Lily's waist, making her whole body cling to the bed surface and unable to move. Neck, said sharply, you shout one more time, and I'll you one more time. Hearing these vicious words, Li was immediately frightened, pursed her lips, and stopped talking. Zhao Zhu's index finger flicked on Lily's head with great strength. Lily's face showed pain, and she felt that the whole forehead was full of boom, and her consciousness also fell into confusion at this time. When she opened her eyes again, she found a pocket watch in front of her. The pocket watch swayed back and forth, a gentle voice came from her ear, and Lily's eyes slowly closed again. Lily felt like she had a dream. In the dream, she was pressed on the grass by several hooligans with tattoos and permed yellow hair, watching them do that kind of thing on her body one by one, watching them disgusting, dirty body fluids came one after the other on himself. However, at this moment, her point of view is like a bystander, and in her usual nightmares, she is the one who experienced it personally. In this way, after seeing this scene again, the degree of excitement in my heart will be reduced. All but one of those people have been arrested and sentenced. At this time, Li suddenly realized that there was someone standing beside her. This man was wearing a pair of sneakers, a pair of sky blue jeans, and a very loose white coat. He had a slightly cynical look on his face. If it was his previous self, he would probably have committed a crime if he saw him. Nympho, because this man is really good looking, a bit like a Korean star, but he has a taste that is unique to men than those creamy Korean stars. This man was naturally Zhao Zhu. He stretched out one hand and hugged Lily in his arms. Lily did not struggle and was very obedient. You have to remember that there is another person who raped you, who escaped and hasn't been caught yet. Can you be reconciled like this? So, you have to face it well, behave well, you can no longer be a mental patient, you have to be a normal person, you have to leave this mental hospital as soon as possible, you have to go to school, so that you can find a good job, so that you to have a salary, so that you can go everywhere to find that scum who escaped, you have to take good care of your parents, you have to find a man who truly loves you, you have to give birth to a healthy child, and you have to take care of him to grow up. So that your parents, your husband, your child will help you find that scum in the future. That scum will definitely be found by you. Then, send him to prison, send him to a cold prison, let the prison guards and prisoners in the prison, take care torturing him. While Zhao Zhu was talking, Lily nodded. She didn't know how long it took. She felt some itching in her eyes. When she opened her eyes, she found herself lying on the hospital bed, with saline on her arms and covered with a clean and tidy quilt. A nurse was standing beside her at this time, taking her temperature. Yeah, are you awake? How are you now? Is there anything uncomfortable? The nurse asked with concern. No. I feel fine now. By the way, what about Dr. Zhao? Lily smiled and said softly. Dr. Zhao, he left after you fell asleep. Thank you Dr. Zhao for me, thank him. No problem, you, take a good rest, get some more sleep, and I'll go first. The nurse took out the thermometer, said goodbye to Lily and left the ward. In fact, most mental patients are no different from normal people when they are not sick. Li grasped the quilt tightly with both hands and muttered, I can't be afraid anymore, I want to leave this hospital, I want to go to school, I want to return to a normal person, I want to find that who ran away. I want to use my hands, kill him. In the office, Zhao Zhu made himself a cup of instant milk tea, and then stuffed a large amount of ice cubes into the quilt. He liked the sound of ice cubes cracking into hot water. However, before Zhao Zhu could pick up the milk tea, the other hand grabbed the cup in front of him. Oh, I'm dying of thirst. It's better for you, Xiao Zhao, to get yourself an ice machine. The one who took the cup was Zhao Maifen, the head nurse of the inpatient department. She was in her early 30s, her chest was high and her hips were raised, and she exuded a strong style. It was when the peaches were ripe, and she drank a sip of ice-cold milk tea. And stretched out his tongue and licked his lips for half a circle with obvious provocation, very amorous. Zhao Zhu, on the other hand, stretched out his hand, wrapped his arms around Zhao Maifen's waist, and pulled her into his arms. With the other hand, he directly grabbed the towering figure on Zhao Maifen's chest and kneaded it recklessly. After Zhao Maifen struggled symbolically for a while, she just let it go, glared at Zhao Zhu with a touch of spring love and hatred, and said, the office door hasn't been closed yet. Why is there such a hurry? Yes, I don't know which monkey rushed to the door by himself. Zhao Zhu lowered his head, caught Zhao Maifen's attractive little mouth with his own mouth, and then almost enthusiastically and frantically asked for it, while his hands swam wantonly on the beautiful woman's buttocks and chest. Zhao Maifen also responded emotionally. After a while, she realized what she was doing, and hurriedly pushed Zhao Zhu away, begging for mercy, fellow, tonight you are on duty for medical treatment. I am also on night shift. I will come back to you in the evening. I have to go to the wards now, so there is no time to delay. Zhao Zhu let go of her hand, Zhao Maifen straightened her clothes and hair, and went out with her waist twisted. Actually, a woman like Zhao Maifen is not necessarily so slutty and flirtatious. She will tease you sometimes, but she will not let you eat it. This is a kind of pleasure for women. But when Zhao Meifen tried to tease the new doctor for the first time, Zhao Zhu pressed it directly on the wall to eat it in the simplest and most direct way, so that the two quickly established a lover relationship. Later, when Zhao Meifen checked the archives, he found out that Zhao Zhu even had a master's degree in psychology, and then it suddenly dawned on him that he should have seen through his own mind long ago, and knew that even if he was forcibly eaten, he would not object or resist. After making himself a cup of milk tea again, Zhao Zhu sat back at his desk, took out his mobile phone, and opened a novel reading software. The profession of a doctor is sometimes very busy, but it can also drive people crazy when he is free, so when he is bored, Zhao Zhu will use his mobile phone to find some novels on the internet. It's just that I don't know if it's because I've read too many books and my eyesight has improved, or because the level of people who have written books recently is not good enough. In short, there are fewer and fewer novels that can really be read, especially some fantasy novels. A fixed routine, you can guess the end after reading the first chapter, so Zhao Zhu has to spend a lot of time searching for books every time. Looking for it in the library, reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Zhao Zhu found that the cover of a book was very interesting, a skull with a strange smile, and the title of the book was very straightforward: Terrorist Web Articles. Clicking on the page of this book, I found that the number of words in this book shows ominous, and there are no comments in the comment area. I think it should not be a famous novel, it should even be a playing street work, and the novels of those internet gods. Popularity can't be compared. But Zhao Zhu still clicked on the read option. Immediately, he found that his phone's screen went black. No, soon, a few lines appeared on the phone's screen, as if written in blood. When you read this online novel on the internet, congratulations, you have been selected as an experiencer of the world of terrorist online literature and entered the world of horror novels. I sincerely hope you can come back alive. Horror World, Zombie World Attribute, Survival Mode Main Quest, survive 7 days in the world of zombies. Mission reward, 1000 points. What the hell, boring. Zhao Zhu laughed. He thought it was because his mobile phone was implanted with a Trojan horse and then who was joking with him. When he was studying abroad, he had a lot of computer students. This trick is a piece of cake for those people. However, Zhao Zhu's face became serious very quickly, because he was still sitting on a chair, but this chair was not the boss chair in the office, but a pear wood armchair, his legs not on the desk, but on a coffin. If you think this book is interesting, please give Xiaolong a collection, thank you Xiaolong. The scene transitions are so natural that they seem to have entered another world in the blink of an eye. Zhao Zhu carefully removed his legs from the coffin, and at the same time quickly stood up from the chair. Looking around, he found that it was an all-wooden house with a lot of space, but there were candles inside. There were a few candles lit beside Zhao Zhu, and the rest of the place was pitch black and blurry. Moreover, with the help of the faint light of the candle beside him, Zhao Zhu found that there were several coffins beside him besides the coffin he had just put his feet on. This pattern was definitely not a hospital morgue, but it looked a bit like it. Yazhuang often appeared in Hong Kong films in the 1980s and 1990s. Taking a deep breath, Zhao Zhu forced himself to calm down. Although all this happened was very strange, and even completely beyond the scope of scientific description, no matter what, he must not panic at this time. Taking out his phone again, Zhao Zhu turned on the flashlight that came with the phone. The light was much brighter than the light of a candle, but when the light came on, Zhao Zhu almost dropped the phone in fright. As far as the light could reach, a woman dressed in white was sitting in front of a coffin, staring at herself coldly. Zhao Zhu staggered back 2 steps, but still looked at the woman. His brain resumed thinking after the previous shock, and only then did he see that the woman was wearing a white shirt and a pair of white slacks, not it is the pure white costume of the female ghost in the Ghost movie. Oh, it's not bad, I didn't faint from fright. The woman yawned, looking nonchalant. Where is this place? Did you bring me? Zhao Zhu immediately asked when he saw a living person. Hey! The woman smiled, seeing that she was only 26 or 7 years old, but her whole body, including her face, looked a little thin, and her indifferent expression gave people a feeling of being very difficult to get along with. It's good to have the ability to bring you in. Did you read a terrorist web article on the internet, and then found yourself here? That's right. Then it's over. I'm just like you. My name is Chen Hong. Little brother, what's your name? Forget it, don't tell me, in case you can't survive this world and become a dead person. I'm not interested in knowing the name of a dead person. Looking at Chen Hong's attitude, and after confirming that the other party didn't have a firearm, Zhao Zhu's eyes began to sink slightly. Yo, are you still a trainer? Yes, but it's useless. Even if you are Huang Fi Hung, you can't beat zombies. Chen Hong shook her head regretfully. She saw that Zhao Zhu was planning to take action against her, but she was not afraid at all. What zombie? Zhao Zhu still accepted the urge to do it directly. Judging from the woman's words and expressions, the other party had absolute confidence in dealing with him, and did not take himself seriously. As a master of psychology, Zhao Zhu trusted his own judgment. This world is called zombie. What else can there be in it besides encountering zombies? Well, listen, he's coming out soon. Chen Hong made a shush action. The two of them stopped talking, and the surroundings suddenly fell into silence, but soon, a sound of shasha sand came, but the sound was a little vague, not very clear, and it was temporarily impossible to tell where it came from. Come. Listen, he's starting to grow his nails, and he's scratching the coffin board. It won't be long before he pops out. Chen Hong took out a pack of cigarettes, took out one, click, lit it with a lighter, and then spit out a smoke ring. The next moment, Zhao Zhu actually walked up to Chen Hong and sat down beside Chen Hong, leaning his back against the side of a coffin, and then very familiarly reached out for the cigarette in Chen Hong's hand. Chen Hong ducked the hand holding the cigarette, then looked at Zhao Zhu with a playful look. Zhao Zhu reached out to take it again. This time, Chen Hong didn't hide anymore. He let Zhao Zhu take the pack of cigarettes. Zhao Zhu removed a cigarette, sent it directly to a nearby candle to light it, and then tightened his mouth and sucked it. One bite. Tisk tisk, it's interesting, aren't you afraid? What are you afraid of? It's you anyway. Ha, this should be your first time doing a mission. I've done it 4 times, so I'm used to it. This place really isn't the original world. Zhao Zhu was still a little unwilling to give up. In fact, he also hoped that this place was a fake prop set and everything was fake. No, this is the horror world. Since you have read the terrorist web article, that is, you have been selected to enter here to perform the mission. If the mission is successful, you can return to the real world and continue to soak in the your girl, keep hitting you. By the way, look at your white coat, are you a doctor? A surgeon? Psychiatry? Oh, it's a pity, a surgeon can still help people with nursing care and get a psychiatrist. Is it possible to do psychological counseling while doing tasks? Chen Hong sighed regretfully, looking very disappointed. What happens if the mission fails? Then you can't go back. You and your corpse will stay here forever. Of course, if you can save your own corpse, zombies really like your fresh blood. Chen Hong took it for granted. Look. He took a heavy puff of cigarette, wishing he could the whole cigarette into his lungs, then pressed the remaining cigarette to the ground and twisted it hard to extinguish it. Grass. It's all right, you just scolded a grass and you're ready to deal with it, but when I see a newcomer coming for the first time, they either don't believe that this is the mission world, or they cry or even pee. You are already a relatively calm one, much calmer than when I first came in. You will get 1000 coupons after completing this task. Is that a reward? That's right, but it's still the same sentence. If you can't live, there's no point in rewarding what you don't reward. If I survive, I will give you 500 points. Ah! Is this a promise? Seeing how sensible you are, I feel more and more that it would be a pity if you died. If you can survive, I might have to ask you for help in the future. Okay, 500 points are within my power. Inside, I will protect you. Chen Hong stretched out her hand and handed it to Zhao Zhu. Zhao Zhu also stretched out his hand, and the two of them gave a slap. At this time, the sound of the fingernail scratching the coffin board became louder and clearer, and the location was basically determined. The sound came from the coffin that was about 10 meters away from the diagonally opposite. Why don't you leave here? Do you have to wait for that thing to deceive the corpse? Chen Hong glanced at Zhao Zhu and said, according to experience, if you leave the initial scene without authorization and walk into the dark night, the mortality rate is very high. Here, maybe you will encounter a zombie that has just picked up its corpse. But if you go out, you may encounter the wild zombie king before you run far. Zhao Zhu nodded. He probably understood what Chen Hong meant. It was like making a movie. It should have a conventional plot. Whoever wants to go beyond the plot will quickly change and make that attempt more difficult. The person on the line will deal with it. Crunch, crunch, crunch. This is no longer scratching the coffin board, it has already begun to push hard from the inside out. In ancient coffins, wooden hooks and large iron nails were used to seal the coffins after they were closed. If a living person was sealed inside, they would be suffocated to death inside. An adult's strength wanted to push the sealed coffin away from the inside. Is basically impossible. Many ancient nobles buried their concubines with their concubines after they died. After 1,000 years, when the archaeological team opened the coffin, they would see the mummified corpses inside struggling, that is, the living people struggled inside. However, there is already a fraudulent corpse. According to some jargon, it is hairy and turned into a zongzi. The strength of a zombie is naturally much greater than that of ordinary people. Yu Kanshu www.yuyuganshu.com forcibly opened the coffin. It's totally fine, it's just the length of time now. It's almost time to come out. Chen Hong stood up, stopped sitting, and took out a string of talisman papers from his pocket, and at the same time urged Zhao Zhu, who was beside him, you will have some eyesight yourself later. See you, find opportunities by yourself, and do whatever you can do for me. Don't worry, I understand. Zhao Zhu responded. That is to say, just as Zhao Zhu's voice fell, a crisp sound came. Hi! The coffin board of the coffin cracked open, and a cloud of black gas spewed out from it, and it floated towards Chen Hong and Zhao Zhu's position automatically without wind. This is corpse poison, hold your breath. Chen Hong reminded, and then a donkey rolled around, avoiding the black fog. In fact, Zhao Zhu didn't ask Chen Hong to remind him. He almost rolled sideways at the same time as Chen Hong, and also avoided the black fog. The black fog quickly dissipated, and the air was filled with a disgusting stench of corpses. Then, Zhao Zhao saw a figure standing upright in the place where the coffin had been. This is not an ordinary male corpse, but a female corpse. The female corpse is wearing the kind of palace clothes in the Qing palace drama, and wearing the court hall. The most trembling thing is the pair of eyes, emitting a green light similar to a weasel. Full of a strange and evil spirit, making people shudder. Ah! The female zombie let out a scream that made her eardrums bleed. Zhao Zhu only felt the stars in his eyes and had to stretch out his hands to cover his ears, but the next moment, a black shadow appeared in front of him, and then, there is a deep cold that freezes to the bone marrow. Thanks to time, mortals, long casting time, and Xingzi for the reward and encouragement. Congratulations to Saint Xia for becoming the first leader of this book. The new book is starting, everyone, don't forget to collect it for the dragon. Thank you Xiaolong. Almost instinctively, Zhao Zhu's calf muscles quickly tightened at this time, and then the whole person fell backwards, doing a movement similar to a backflip. Also because this was an overreaction, he was unable to stand on his feet when he landed, but knelt on the ground with both knees on the ground and his hands on the floor tiles. There was a big gap in Zhao Zhu's white coat, which was split by the zombie's claws. If the reaction is slower, it is estimated that the end of the intestines will really be rotten. A coquettish shout sounded, and Chen Hong's figure appeared beside Zhao Zhu. She quickly stepped forward and stepped on a special pace. The female zombie waved her arms, trying to catch Chen Hong, but every time Chen Hong stepped on the area that the female zombie couldn't take care of due to her rigid body, so the two sides dealt with the female zombie for several rounds and failed to touch Chen. Red. Afterwards, Chen Hong took a gap and quickly stepped forward. One of them fell against the female zombie, and at the same time held a talisman and stuck it to the female zombie's forehead with lightning speed. When the talisman was pasted on the zombie's forehead, a red light flashed immediately, and the zombie was motionless at this moment, as if it had been immobilized. Chen Hong also sighed and said, "Fortunately, the runes I exchanged can still suppress zombies of this level." Exchanged. I'll tell you in detail when this mission world is over. Now find some ropes, tie the zombie's legs and ankles, and fix some key points on her body. Although the rune has calmed her down now, but it is also necessary to take precautions in case of any accident. Zhao Zhu nodded and searched the Yizhuang with his mobile phone. He really found a pile of hemp rope in a corner. When he took it, he tied it around the female zombie's ankle several times, and then tied the female zombie. The knee and shoulder joints are tied together. The female zombie stared in front of her with no expression at all, but when she got close to her, she could smell the pungent stench, especially from the mouth of the female zombie. The smell could almost knock people out. After tying up, Zhao Zhu made a few loops of rope along several positions of the beam to make a simple hanging and pulling trap. Chen Hong was still leaning against the side of a coffin and quietly watched Zhao Zhu do these things. When Zhao Zhu sat down again, Chen Hong took the initiative to hand over a cigarette and a lighter. "No, I don't actually smoke." Zhao Zhu rejected Chen Hong's cigarette, and Chen Hong snorted and lit it for herself, but the cigarette end flickered. "You watch the night, I'll rest first." Chen Hong closed her eyes after saying this. Zhao Zhu moved his neck slightly and took out his mobile phone. Naturally, there was no signal at all at this time, and the mobile phone was about to run out of battery. Zhao Zhu had to put the mobile phone away again. With any slight noise. There is no way to do this. There is already a coffin cheating the corpse. God knows if the corpses in the other coffins will also become restless. After about an hour or so, Chen Hong was still asleep. Zhao Zhu's spirits were okay, but always watching the surrounding situation with all his attention would inevitably make people feel a little tired, and Zhao Zhu couldn't help but yawned. His head raised slightly, and at this moment, a cat meow came. Meow. The cat's meow was very light and faint. Zhao Zhu's eyes fell on the beam diagonally above. A black cat was looking at him at this time. For a time, a deep sense of exhaustion struck. This exhaustion, the feeling came too fast and too strong, Zhao Zhu couldn't resist it at all. Dong 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 came the crisp knock on the door. Zhao Zhu opened his eyes and found himself lying on the desk. Soon, without waiting for her response, the door opened on her own, and Zhao Maifen walked in with a lot of style. "Fellow, miss me?" Zhao Zhu shook his head in confusion. He always felt that something was wrong. Could it be that he had just had a dream before? What terrorist web articles, what zombies, what Chen Hong, are all fake? Hey, what are you thinking? This is a hospital, so why don't you think about it? Zhao Maifen sat directly on Zhao Zhu's lap, very provocatively rubbing her soft against Zhao Zhu's body. "Yes, this is a hospital, it's a hospital, not a Yizhuang, it's not some mission world." Zhao Zhu smiled. He stretched out his hand to wipe the sweat on his forehead, lowered his head and kissed Zhao Maifen twice, and said with a smile, "Yes, this is a hospital, but don't you think that your spiritual suggestion and guidance are too simple and low level? What, this is really a hospital? Zhao Meifen looked puzzled. Although I don't want to admit it, the truth is that I'm still in that terrorist web article world, and you, and this office, are what I saw after being hypnotized, so I have to wake up, Meifen, I'm sorry already. Zhao Zhu squeezed Zhao Meifen's neck with both hands. Zhao Meifen struggled desperately. At first, there was a human scream of pain, but then it became a cat meow, a shrill cat meow. There was a severe pain in the head. Zhao Zhu's whole body was suddenly awake. He opened his eyes, and found that he was still leaning against the side of a coffin, and there was a black cat lying in his arms, but the black cat was dead, and his hands were just on the black cat's neck, almost severing the black cat's neck. Zhao Zhu stretched out his hand and pushed Chen Hong. Chen Hong also slept very lightly. As soon as she pushed it, she woke up. The first thing she did when she woke up was to scan the surroundings with sharp eyes, and then she saw the dead cat in Zhao Zhu's arms. This kind of thing came out on the first day. Can you explain what this thing is? This is a yin evil. It sticks to the cat. It plays with you and makes you daydream, but you are amazing. It can't charm you, and your mind is firm enough. I have studied psychology, and I also use hypnosis when treating patients. Oh, it turns out that this thing got an axe in front of you. At the other end, the female zombie with a talisman on her forehead remained motionless. Chen Hong stretched and said to Zhao Zhu who was beside him, "Okay, I'll keep watch, you can sleep." Zhao Zhu was not polite. He lowered himself a little and leaned on the coffin, then closed his eyes and started to sleep. He was indeed a little tired. He felt a slight tingling in his eyes, and when he opened it, he found that the sun was facing his face. Zhao Zhu stretched out his hand to block the sun, and stumbled to his feet. After sitting and sleeping like this all night, his legs were already numb. A faint scent wafted from outside Yizhuang. When Zhao Zhu walked to the door, he happened to see Chen Hong walking in with 2 sea bowls. Seeing that Zhao Zhu was already awake, the giant handed over a sea bowl and said, "There is only 1 bag of rice in the whole Yizhuang. I cooked some porridge." Zhao Zhu said thanks and took the sea bowl. He glanced at the place where the female zombie stood yesterday, and found that there was only a black mark left on the spot. It turned into ashes when the sun came in the morning. Chen Hong said, "Are we going to stay here today? Then we have to watch the plot. If there is no plot prompt, we will continue to stay here. Anyway, that bag of rice is enough for us to eat for a few days." Plot hint, what is that? Well, in a nutshell, it's like reading a novel. The protagonist's actions and behaviors are driven by the supporting characters and the changes in things around him. No NPC will come to chat with you right away, leading to your next mission. We are in the world of terrorist web articles, so there will be clues like this to show you what to do, how to do it, if you don't follow the prompts it gives or some established rules. Then you will face all kinds of accidents, of course, even if you follow its prompts, you will encounter accidents, but it is easier to deal with than the former. Zhao Zhu nodded thoughtfully, and leaned against the door, drinking porridge. Before the bowl of porridge was finished, an old lady walked in. The grandma was carrying a basket and leaning on crutches. "Hungzi, Zuzi, you should go to the Temple of the Earth in Hushan at the west end of the village to take a look. I heard that there are dead people there." "Ouch, you are doing a sin, go and recover the dead bodies, you can't leave them at night. Let the wild dog take it." At this moment, a voice resounded in Zhao Zhu's mind, "Side quest released, go to the village's Zikao Land Temple to transport the corpse back to Yizhuang, and you will be rewarded with 300 coupons for completing the quest." Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. After Grandma finished speaking, she wiped away tears and left. Chen Hong packed up her things, found a rope and a wooden board similar to a half-door, and shouted to Zhao Zhu, "You also received a side quest, let's go, let's go to the Temple of the Earth. Is it possible not to do side quests, but to do them selectively? Yes, the main quest is a quest that must be completed. It doesn't matter if you don't do the side quest, but I will do it. You will understand the importance of coupons in the future, and I will not give up any points to get coupons. Opportunity. Okay, let's go together. Zhao Zhu stepped forward, carried the wooden board on his back, and followed Chen Hong out of the gate of Yizhuang. The Tudi temple on the mountain in the west of the village is a very desolate place. In fact, this temple has long since been in ruins, and half of the clay statue of Tudi Gong has collapsed. However, after walking around the temple twice, neither Zhao Zhu nor Chen Hong found the body. Where is the corpse? Chen Hong pursed her lips. Since the side quest has been released, there will be nothing wrong. There is a possibility that the corpse hid by itself before we came in. Zhao Zhu took a deep breath. I can still smell the faint smell of corpse. But it's daytime here, zombies are afraid of sunlight. Chen Hong retorted. So, just find a place in this earth temple where sunlight can't penetrate. As they spoke, Zhao Zhu and Chen Hong raised their heads at the same time and looked at the top of the beams of the earth temple. What? A low roar like a beast came out from the beams, and then half of the beams shattered directly, turning into wooden cones that fell rapidly. Zhao Zhu's reaction was already quick, but he still didn't have time to dodge all of them. 2 wooden awls pierced directly into his right arm, and blood immediately gurgled out. But the only thing that can be fortunate is that he was only stabbed by a wooden cone, not by a zombie, otherwise he would be in danger of being poisoned by a corpse. Chen Hong was not much better than Zhao Zhu. Although there was nothing wrong with her body, a thorn was slashed across her face, and a hole about 7 or 8 centimeters in length was cut. On the top of the beam, stood a little zombie. The little zombie was wearing a black official uniform of the Qing dynasty, with blue face and fangs, and red eyes. There was no child's cuteness at all. It's like coming out like drops of water. I have to get him down, otherwise my talisman won't be able to stick to him. Chen Hong said to Zhao Zhu. Zhao Zhu looked at the rope beside him, and immediately said, let's use the rope together to sweep him down. Chen Hong also nodded immediately, grabbed one end of the rope with one hand, and threw the other end to Zhao Zhu. Zhao Zhu took the rope, and the two sprinted together. Red pulls the rope horizontally together. The little zombie stood on the beam, and the rope swept directly to his calf. Zhao Zhu and Chen Hong were naturally strong, and the place where the little zombie landed was indeed too narrow. Ripped off the beam. Ah 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 ah. Leaving the beam of the sunshade and falling to the ground, the little zombie that was irradiated by the sun made a sharp scream, a bit like a beast and a bit like a child, and white smoke kept rising from its body. If it is illuminated by sunlight and brought back the powder, can it still be considered a mission accomplished? Chen Hong glared at Zhao Zhu angrily and said, of course it's a failure. Hearing this, Zhao Zhu no longer hesitated, and pulled down the dusty and grime-filled cloth curtain before the clay sculpture, and with a flick, covered the little zombie and blocked the sunlight, and Chen Hong also understood it. Took advantage of the trend to hold the talisman paper and put the talisman paper on the little zombie's forehead before the little zombie was covered. The little zombie didn't move, and the body was covered with cloth to block the sunlight. Zhao Zhu and Chen Hong finally breathed a sigh of relief. Zhao Zhu bared his teeth, endured the pain and directly pulled out the 2 wooden thorns that had pierced into his arms, and then tore off a large piece of cloth from his tattered white coat to wrap himself up hastily. As expected of being a doctor, the wound was bandaged really well. Do you want to stop the bleeding on your face first, so that even if you leave a scar in the future, it will be shallower? No, when you return to the real world after the mission is completed, you will still be the same you. You won't lose a single hair, and I don't have to worry about scars. Well, that's not bad. I'll grab a few more pieces of cloth to wrap this little zombie more tightly, and then put him on a wooden board and carry him back to Yizhuang. That's right, it can't be delayed until night. If we go after the sun goes down, it's like carrying a zombie on our back and possibly encountering zombies wandering in the wild. Chen Hong also started to do it, and together with Zhao Zhu, he took the last bit of fig cloth from Munich land, and wrapped it tightly around the 3 layers of the little zombie. Put the little zombie on the wooden board, Zhao Zhu in the front, Chen Hong in the back, the 2 of them carried the wooden board out of the Temple of Earth together. Don't look at this zombie's small size, but its weight is not light. When they carried him back to the door of Yizhuang, Zhao Zhu and Chen Hong were already out of breath, and their arms seemed to be filled with lead, maybe the muscles are also slightly strained. However, when Zhao Zhu entered the Yizhuang, he stopped at the door, because he saw that there was a person inside the Yizhuang. Since it was a human being, it was not a zombie, because this person was walking around the Yizhuang. Walking around in circles, there is a bag of rice in the middle of circles, and zombies are jumping forward, and their limbs are extremely stiff, it is impossible to walk out of such a style. This person should look like an old man, wearing a colorful dress and cloud-soled shoes under his feet. He looks very clean, but his complexion is very ugly, and he looks completely malnourished. Seeing this scene, Chen Hong didn't say a word, took out the pot and firewood from the Yizhuang, put it in the yard, set up a simple stove, didn't say a word to the old man, went straight to the bag of rice was brought over, and after the water in the pot boiled, half the bag of rice was poured in and started to cook. The old man started circling around the pot again like this. The expression on his face was sometimes greedy, sometimes painful, sometimes excited, and sometimes crying, giving people a very strange feeling, and Zhao Zhu also found out at this time, the old man, no shadow. After the rice was cooked, Chen Hong inserted the 2 chopsticks directly into the pot, then pulled Zhao Zhu and started to back up. The old man stopped spinning at this time, squatted directly in front of the pot, drooling at the pot of rice, but he didn't move or eat. Go find some paper money or something. Chen Hong instructed Zhao Zhu, I'll find some incense ashes. It is easy to find paper money in Yizhuang. Zhao Zhu quickly brought out several strings of paper money, while Chen Hong was holding an incense burner in his hand. Chen Hong took the paper money from Zhao Zhu, ignited the lighter, and the paper money began to burn. The wind picked up a little, scraped the burning paper money, and swirled it. Immediately afterwards, Chen Hong grabbed a handful of incense ash from the incense burner and threw it straight at the old man who was still drooling over the rice in the pot. After a while, the old man stood up, his stomach was already bulging, and he burped with satisfaction. Then he ignored Zhao Zhu and Chen Hong, who were on the side, and walked straight out of the Yizhuang. Is that a starving ghost? Zhao Zhu asked. Chen Hong looked at Zhao Zhu with a surprised look, and smiled, okay, my eyesight is good, it is indeed a ghost of starvation. When I meet this kind of ghost, I have something to eat at home, cook a little for him, and then burn it again. Just put some paper money or sprinkle some incense ashes to send him off. Starvation ghosts usually don't harm people, but if the host is really neglecting others, it is estimated that they will suffer some disasters, such as family members getting sick or unlucky for no reason. At that time, the uncles lying in our Yizhuang were the most dangerous and uneasy things. If we let another starving ghost come over to make trouble, then our situation will be even more worrying. Fortunately, it has been sent away now. Why are so many dirty things coming to the door? Zhao Zhu stretched a little speechlessly. He didn't rest well last night, and he struggled a lot today. Now he is a little uncomfortable. As a doctor, I knew that if I continued like this, my body would get sick in all likelihood. First, this is Yizhuang, which is the favorite place for dirty things to come. Second, we are the experiencers of entering the world of terrorist web articles, which is equivalent to the protagonist in the novel. The protagonist, even if it is not looking for trouble, everything will come to you. The protagonist in the novel can't usually die no matter what. Zhao Zhu couldn't help but tease. Hearing this, Chen Hong's face became sad, and she said, I have seen many people die. Many of the people who used to work together on missions are no longer there. How can there be no news in the outside world after so many people died? You still underestimate this terrorist web article world. It brought you in, you died, and then your relatives outside, even your parents, mother, wife, and children, would not be at all strange. They will take your sudden death very lightly, the police will be very indifferent, and the whole society will be very indifferent. There was a big mission last time. There were more than 30 people participating in the group. All of them died in it, and none of them came out alive. However, there was no newspaper reporting about this incident the next day. Your life and death remain absolutely indifferent. It can even be said that since you entered this terrorist web article world, even if you can survive the mission and return to the real world, you have actually been separated from the real world. Group? What group? Don't every novel have its own reader group? UU reading www.uugonshu.com. The group I'm talking about is the novel group of terrorist web articles. The group name is Terrorist Web Articles, and the group number is. Chen Hong took out her mobile phone, clicked into the QQ column, and entered the group information. Of course, at this time, there is no signal, and it is impossible to receive QQ messages, but it is still possible to check the group number. It is 1618666011, you can write it down first, and you can join this group when you return to the real world alive. Tasks will be issued in the group, and members will be selected to participate in the next terrorist web article world to experience. You can also communicate with other people in the group, whether it is online or in the real world, because maybe you will one day sooner or later. Will die together. Who is that group leader? Or, is there a group leader? There is a group leader, but it shouldn't be a person, maybe even a god. In short, it's useless to talk about it, just live a good life. After this mission world is over, you and I will meet in the group. It's interesting. Zhao Zhu smiled, and then his eyes fell on the pot of rice that had never been touched at all. Is this rice dumped? Yes, if you eat it, you will get sick. Some old doctors in your hospital should have a rule. Even if you eat in the hospital, you will eat it quickly without leaving any leftovers, because there are far more ghosts in the hospital than in other places. If the leftovers eaten by the living are eaten by ghosts again, it will have a bad influence on the living. Zhao Zhu thought about it for a while, and indeed some old doctors have this rule. Unlike some young doctors and nurses who like to play with their mobile phones while eating after returning from their meals, they use their lunch boxes after finishing their meals like a game. Before nightfall today, Zhao Zhu put 3 sticks of incense in front of nearly 30 coffins in Yizhuang, old and new. It was surprisingly quiet. It was Zhao Zhu who stayed in the first half of the night and Chen Hong who stayed in the second half of the night without incident. In addition, Zhao Zhu slept on the ground of Yizhuang with a layer of straw this time, which was much more comfortable than sleeping on the coffin last night. When he woke up the next morning, he was still in good spirits, and when Zhao Zhu walked into the yard, Chen Hong was already practicing the exercises, but this was a bit peculiar, with more legwork, and his hands seemed to be just some assistance. In short, watch sex is indeed relatively poor, but the pertinence should be very strong. Through brain supplementation, Zhao Zhu can understand that this should be a kung fu specially trained to deal with zombies. After all, zombies are different from people. We must deal with zombies as hard as we can deal with people, or else we will surely die miserably. After practicing a routine, she finished work. Seeing Zhao Zhu standing behind her and looking at her, Chen Hong picked up her wet hair and said, "The porridge is in the pot, go and add some firewood." Understood. Zhao Zhu responded and asked at the same time, "You used to be a trainer?" "Hehe, I used to only do color painting, and the serious job is to paint other people's nails. This skill is obtained by exchanging coupons. In short, after you go back alive, you will probably know it. It seems that coupons are really a good thing." Just as Zhao Zhu was walking towards the kitchen, a barefooted male villager ran outside. He was only about 30 years old, but his years of hard work in the fields made him look even older. At this moment, with an extremely anxious expression on his face, he ran here and shouted, "A Hong, A Zhu, my daughter Hua Hua has disappeared from the barren tomb. Please help me. Let's find my daughter together. I'll call someone else." Side quest: find Hua Hua. 300 points will be awarded for completing the mission. As soon as the villager's voice fell, the reminder of the side quest sounded again in Zhao Zhu and Chen Hong's mind. The villagers left soon, and they should find other villagers to find Hua Hua together. Looks like we have to be busy again. That's right, trust me, earn a little more coupons at this time, and you won't regret it later. Yes, yes, I will listen to you. Zhao Zhu was very good at talking at this time, but now I feel more and more like playing a live-action online game, and I also help find my daughter, tisk tisk. If you die in an online game, you can be resurrected, but not here. Chen Hong said blankly. There are 2 cemeteries in the village. The older one is always causing some weird things, such as hearing women crying in the middle of the night, children laughing during the day, dead old people walking around, etc. The villagers were afraid, and they simply found a new cemetery. The former cemetery gradually became a barren tomb, but there were many peach trees near the barren tomb. This is clearly the case with Hua Hua. When Zhao Zhu and Chen Hong arrived at the barren tomb, they found that there were only 2 of them around. Would you like to be so fake? Didn't you say that the whole village was mobilized to look for it? Why is it just the 2 of us and the other villagers? Zhao Zhu held his head in his arms, feeling helpless. Don't be noisy, the other villagers are actually by our side. Chen Hong suddenly said this, and then handed a small bottle to Zhao Zhu. What is this? Cow's tears, add a little bit of paper ash. Can you see ghosts by rubbing it on your eyes? You know quite a lot. That's how it's played in Hong Kong films. Zhao Zhu twisted the cork, dripped some cow tears on his palms, and wiped his eyes. His eyes felt a little sore. After getting used to it, he opened his eyes again. Zhao Zhu immediately took a deep breath, and he finally realized Chen Chen. What did Hong mean when he said there were a lot of people? There were more than 100 villagers around the 2 of them at this time. These villagers are all dressed in brightly colored clothes, that is, the kind of shroud. Everyone, regardless of gender, age, or child, wears a kind of carmine red on their cheeks, which brought their faint laughter. Hey, it's really exciting. Zhao Zhu coughed to cover up his embarrassment and anxiety. To be honest, even facing zombies is not as stimulating as facing hundreds of ghosts, especially when hundreds of ghosts are still there. Staring at you, that smile, that look, can't be described in words, but it can make you goosebumps all over your body. The girl is there, see. Following the direction of Chen Hong's gaze, Zhao Zhu also looked over, and sure enough, behind the ghosts group, there was a ghost in the appearance of a woman wearing a large navy blue padded jacket, holding a little girl with dull eyes in his hand. The little girl held some candy preserves in her hands and kept sticking her tongue out. What should I do next? Steal people from ghosts? The ghosts here shouldn't be as indifferent as people in the real world. Zhao Zhu was a little worried. If he accidentally stabbed the ghosts while saving people, and made all the ghosts angry, it would not be fun, and there was no way to play. I'll draw the ghosts away, and then you stick this talisman on the little girl. Chen Hong handed the talisman to Zhao Zhu. What's the formula? Tais Hang Lejun is as anxious as a law. You don't need to read the formula, you can just paste it. So untechnical. I'm going to attract ghosts, so be prepared. Chen Hong didn't intend to continue talking nonsense with Zhao Zhu. She saw that she took a mysterious step at this time. This is Yubu's footwork, which has been lost. After that, Chen Hong pierced the palm of her hand with her fingernails. The blood flowed out, and she used it to draw 2 simple runes on her face. Because of wiping away the cow's tears, Zhao Zhu was able to see the changes on Chen Hong's body. Chen Hong was glowing, emitting a reddish light. At the same time, all the ghosts around were staring at him. Chen Hong showed a greedy and coveted look on his face. This look appeared on the face of a ghost, which was indescribably weird and intimidating. In the end, an old woman ghost couldn't bear it anymore. She hula directly and rushed towards Chen Hong, or it was more appropriate to use floating to Chen Hong. In the eyes of these ghosts, Chen Hong seems to be a sweet pastry that cannot be abandoned. If this group of ghosts is compared to a group of addicts, Chen Hong is a big bag of white noodles. After successfully attracting all the ghosts, Chen Hong didn't just stand there foolishly waiting to be surrounded by ghosts, but ran straight in one direction, and a large group of ghosts chased her and temporarily left this barren tomb. The female ghost who was holding Huahua also seemed to want to chase Chen Hong, but she couldn't run fast because she was still holding someone. In the end, she seemed to have made up her mind to make a choice, and decided to continue holding the little girl. No. After chasing that person, she actually resisted the temptation. However, since Chen Hong had led all the ghosts away, it was Zhao Zhu's turn. Holding the talisman in his hand, Zhao Zhu walked towards the female ghost. The female ghost stared straight at Zhao Zhu, watching Zhao Zhu approach him step by step. However, after all, Zhao Zhu's psychological quality is much stronger than that of ordinary people, and he was not frightened by the female ghost. His pace was still steady. Behind the ghost are a group of small earthen houses and that kind of small concrete houses. The earthen houses should be the tombs of the older ones, and the small concrete houses should be the more popular small houses for the dead. Zhao Zhu took a deep breath, knowing that he could no longer boil frogs in such warm water. If that woman brought Huahua to her home, how would she find so many graves? Immediately, his legs exerted strength, and the whole person began to sprint. The palm of his hand was attached to the talisman paper, and he was attached to the body of the female ghost. There was a scheming smile in the corner of the female ghost's eyes. She smiled very ghostly and wickedly. She still held Huahua in one hand and grabbed the other hand when Zhao Zhu put the talisman on her. After living in Zhao Zhu only felt the world spinning for a while, and an indescribable feeling of nausea filled his body. Then, when he felt a little better and stood up again, he found himself standing in a small town. Empty, the houses are high and low, and the cement houses and small earth houses are crisscrossed. Then, on the balcony of a small two-story western building, Zhao Zhu saw the female ghost standing there, reading www.yuuganchu.com is standing beside Huahua. This era is obviously the Republic of China or even before. How could there be such a graveyard of a cement house? This world is really unreliable. At this moment, Zhao Zhu was thinking about this kind of thing. He was free and easy. Even if he knew that he had inexplicably become smaller and lived in a place where ghosts lived, he was not very afraid. I have seen too many things, and my immunity to this aspect has also been strengthened. Zhao Zhu also took the opportunity to walk into the small Western-style building. The door was unlocked and opened as soon as it was pushed. Who would go out of their way to make those downsized furniture to put them in? Zhao Zhu walked up the stairs to the second floor and saw the female ghost on the balcony. I don't know why, but looking at this female ghost at this time, I feel a bit like a real person, no longer the kind of ghost-like. In fact, this female ghost looks pretty good. Are you here to find her? The female ghost pointed to Huahua beside her and asked. Her voice was hoarse. Yes, I want to take her back. Her parents are looking for her and are in a hurry. I can let her go, but I'm very lonely here alone. Can you stay with me? You use yourself to exchange for her. Before the female ghost could finish speaking, Zhao Zhu turned around and waved his hand. Forget it, see you later, let her continue to accompany you, I'll go first. Walk gracefully, walk firmly. Chen Hong said that coupons are very important, and you need to work hard to get them, but if you lose your life, what is the use of coupons? In Zhao Zhu's view, if you have coupons, you should be able to exchange them to improve your survival rate in the next mission world, rather than simply risking everything for the so-called coupons. That being the case, Zhao Zhu still decided to give up this side quest, and the big deal was a failure. Zhao Zhu walked along the stairs to the first floor, pushed open the door, and walked to the street. He hesitated for a moment. He chose to walk in the east direction. The reason why the town was so deserted at this time was also because other ghosts were attracted by Chen Hong. The reason for leaving: if he really delays here for too long and waits for those ghosts to come back, then it is really hard to say whether he can leave here. However, what Zhao Zhu didn't expect was that the female ghost went to hold Hua Hua's hand and followed him. The female ghost's face was filled with more and more resentment, while Hua Hua's expression was still sluggish. As he walked, Zhao Zhu felt that his feet were getting lighter and lighter, and his body was getting more and more floating, as if he was about to lose his feet. There was a feeling of slowly flying up. Zhao Zhu's whole body fell to the ground once again, but after the fall, he found that he had left the town and was sitting on a pile of dry grass. In front of him, there was a building, for the small Western-style building where the dead lived was the one he had entered before. And all around are small Western-style buildings with tombs similar in style. In addition, beside him lay a girl who looked exactly like the flower that the ghost was holding before. It seemed that she was the girl lost by the villagers. "Come. My brother will take you home." Although some parts have not been clearly figured out, Zhao Zhu knew that this was not a place to stay for a long time. He got up and carried Hua Hua on his back. The little girl was still in a coma, but her body seemed to be extraordinarily heavy, almost more than an adult man. "It's heavier." After walking a few steps, Zhao Zhu felt that he couldn't walk anymore, so he had to put Hua Hua down. Then he took out the small bottle again, wiped a little cow's tears on his eyes, and when he looked at Hua Hua again, sure enough, that female ghost is still lying on Hua Hua's body, and when she is carrying Hua Hua, she is also carrying the female ghost on her back. No wonder she feels extra heavy. The female ghost stared at Zhao Zhu with a resentful look on her face, but she didn't do anything else. Zhao Zhu also has no choice. Maybe Chen Hong has a way to deal with these dirty things, but Zhao Zhu is just a psychiatrist, and he has a lot of methods to deal with mental illness. Perhaps carrying such a heavy flower back to the village. Looking around, thinking about this in his mind, Zhao Zhu suddenly saw many branches beside him. These branches were about the thickness of chopsticks. At this time, he suddenly remembered some ghost stories and ghost movies he had read before. In this scene, some Taoist priests or monks often use chopsticks to clamp the ring finger of the person's left hand when dealing with a ghost's upper body, so that the ghost will be driven down. A dead horse is a living horse, doctor. Anyway, it won't be good if you give it a try. Zhao Zhu randomly picked up 2 branches of similar thickness, squatted down, and grabbed Hua Hua's left hand. At this time, the female ghost lying on Hua Hua's body, her face was very close to Zhao Zhu's. It seemed that she also wanted to look at Zhao Zhu. What caste intends to do? The branch caught Hua Hua's left ring finger. Zhao Zhu twisted it hard, and the unconscious Hua Hua suddenly let out a painful scream, and then the female ghost also let out a scream, and floated down from Hua Hua's body. "It's done." At this moment, Zhao Zhu felt a sense of accomplishment. He was a common man, but he was able to deal with ghosts. Tisk. This feeling is really good. However, Zhao Zhu did not delay too much, and hurriedly carried Hua Hua on his back. Now he felt that Hua Hua was much lighter, and it was not difficult to carry. The whole person began to run in the woods, and only hoped to return to the village as soon as possible. Complete the side quest for the villager, and then everything has nothing to do with me. Zhao Zhu runs very fast, his physical fitness is always good, and he also practices sanda in his spare time, but what makes Zhao Zhu slightly frown is that the female ghost is still behind, but he doesn't have Hua Hua's body anymore. In this case, Zhao Zhu didn't intend to continue to entangle with the female ghost, she would just follow if she wanted to. The village was right in front of him. At the entrance of the village, Zhao Zhu saw the villager, Hua Hua's father, who was waiting anxiously. Beside the villager, Chen Hong, who was all wet, was also standing there. Seeing Zhao Zhu coming back with Hua Hua on his back, the villager immediately ran over with great excitement, picked Hua Hua up from Zhao Zhu's back, and ran back to the village to see his daughter with great gratitude. Chen Hong stepped forward and threw to Zhao Zhu a handkerchief that he had obtained from an unknown source. The handkerchief should have been soaked in well water, and it was obviously cool when wiped, but Zhao Zhu did not forget to remind Chen Hong, "The girl is still following me. I saw it. The talisman I gave you is a ghost talisman, and the ghost you put on it will always follow you. Aren't you afraid that I was really killed by that ghost there? I just walked around in their shady house. What are you afraid of? All the other ghosts have been led away by me, just a female ghost, just out of loneliness and want to kidnap a girl to accompany you, not some vicious ghost, at most charm you. That night even Mao Sha can't charm you. Can an ordinary female ghost charm you? As long as you don't make mistakes and don't give up on yourself, it's not difficult to get back safely. I'm just called hard work. I was chased by a large group of ghosts and ran 2 laps in the mountains. I almost disturbed some spirits in the mountains. There should be wild zombies hidden in the tomb. Fortunately, I ran more carefully, otherwise, if the uncle in the mountain was to be provoked, not only we, but even the village would be wiped out. Okay, whatever you say, I'm tired, I'll go back to Yizhuang and give incense to the old men lying in the coffins. You can get rid of that girl for me, don't let the old man find her lying in bed when he sleeps at night. Lying next to me. Zhao Zhu replied to Chen Hong angrily and walked directly back to Yizhuang. The entire Yizhuang in this village consists of Zhao Zhu and Chen Hong, and there are not many people in the village, but God knows why there are so many coffins with corpses in the Yizhuang, and it seems that it is the Republic of China. There are so many small concrete houses made for dead people in the real world in recent years. In Zhao Zhu's opinion, this should be a bug in the world of terrorist web articles. In the past, when he read online articles, he often found various bugs and loopholes in the online articles, but generally not too much. It has affected the pattern and operation of the novel, but maybe you can take advantage of these bugs. Zhao Zhu first took a look at the little zombie and saw that the little zombie still had a talisman on his forehead and was lying quietly in the coffin. After the meaning arrived, Zhao Zhu saw a few fruits lying on the table on one side, and it was estimated that Chen Hong got it from somewhere. It was dusk, and before Chen Hong came back, Zhao Zhu closed his eyelids with drowsiness. This sleep, Zhao Zhu didn't sleep very well. He had several strange dreams one after another. In the end, he couldn't sleep anymore. He opened his eyes and found that his clothes were wet with sweat while he was sleeping. Chen Hong was on the night watch. Seeing Zhao Zhu wake up, she pointed to the 2 sea bowls on the ground and said, "Drink them, one bowl is soup, the other bowl is talisman water. You go to the yin house for nothing, you are alive again. If you don't drink some talisman water to exorcise evil spirits, you may get sick immediately. The mission world is still some days. If you get sick, you can only ask for more happiness." Zhao Zhu didn't say a word. He picked up the talisman water first and drank it in one breath. The talisman water didn't taste very good. After drinking it, he felt a little dizzy. He seemed to be sweating more. After drinking the hot soup, I felt that there was more heat in my body, and my whole body became much more comfortable. Thank you, your craftsmanship is good. When you return to the real world, I can find you to eat. Zhao Zhu is not a compliment, Zhongtang is indeed delicious. My home is in Liaoning, where is yours? Guangzhou. Then it's really far enough to eat rice. Haha, you reading www.yuyuganshu.com entered this damned place, who will go to work in peace in the future? There are still people who will continue to go to work. I know a lot of people, and it's all like this. They work like normal people with wages and salaries on weekdays. When it's their turn, they go directly to the task world to perform dangerous tasks, and then return to reality. In the world, continue to get along with family members, and continue to live a life of 3 points and one line between family and work unit. Damn it, are those people perverted? It is indeed a bit perverted. There is a saying that after passing 20 tasks, you can leave this circle and return to a normal life. The people I mentioned before have all passed more than 10 tasks. I am here. Now, including this time, it's only the 5th time, and the more difficult the task is, the lower the pass rate will be. It's alright, calm down, I think it's fun, zombies, female ghosts, cat ghosts. I never thought that I would see these things with my own eyes one day. This is also a special experience, don't need it anymore, a messy life. Chen Hong looked into Zhao Zhu's eyes and said, you can go check to see if you are mentally ill. After staying with those gang of mentally ill for a long time, I will definitely be affected by some. Zhao Zhu smiled. Just when the two of them finished speaking, all the coffins in the Yizhuang made a screeching sound of choo choo choo. This battle was simply frightening. Zhao Zhu and Chen Hong looked at each other, and both could see the seriousness in each other's eyes. Could it be that this time the whole Yizhuang cheated the corpse together? I still remember that last night, a female zombie made a scene, and it was already very scary. Zhao Zhu was also almost subjected to an opening operation by the female zombie. They all seem to have started activities. This is definitely a very dangerous thing for Zhao Zhu and Chen Hong, who are still in Yizhuang. Once dozens of zombies pop up in Yizhuang, even Chen Hongju's some familiarist practices are definitely not able to hold up. Wipe, wipe, wipe. Wipe, wipe, wipe. The densely packed fingernails and the rubbing sound of the coffin board made the scalp tingle. Chen Hong bit her lip and said immediately, this Yizhuang is going to be turned upside down, let's go. Let's go. Zhao Zhu looked very surprised, didn't you say that if you break the conventional plot, there will be a greater punishment? That also depends on the situation. If we continue to stay here, when all the dozens of Zongzi get up, we won't be able to leave if we want to, and we will definitely die. Chen Hong said in a hurried tone. Since the meeting, Zhao Zhu has never seen Chen Hong lose his temper like this. Obviously, the situation has reached a very critical moment. Don't be in a hurry, if something goes wrong, there must be a monster. Let's see what is causing the trouble. You also said that there are more monsters and all kinds of terrible things outside. Come on. Zhao Zhu refuted Chen Hong's opinion, come on, check it out and see what's doing the trick. I remembered the incense before going into the night, and there's no reason to give me a look at the corpse right now. Zhao Zhu went directly to a coffin and examined it carefully. There were constant friction and crunching noises from the coffin in front of him. It was obvious that the zombies were about to come out, but Zhao Zhu still went his own way and didn't seem to be worried at all. Chen Hong hesitated for a moment, looked at Zhao Zhu, and then looked at the dark night outside. Finally, she gritted her teeth and began to examine each coffin carefully like Zhao Zhu. Now, every time they stay in the Yizhuang for a while, it means a little more danger. Some coffins have actually been cracked, and wisps of corpse gas escapes, and the smell in the Yizhuang suddenly becomes choking. Zhao Zhu inspected 7 or 8 coffins one after another, but did not see anything unusual. He turned his head and saw that Chen Hong was also continuing the inspection, and it seemed that nothing unusual was found. Crack! At this time, the coffin closest to Zhao Zhu was already cracked open, and a hand covered with white hair stretched out and waved it towards Zhao Zhu. It seemed that the one inside couldn't wait. At this time, Zhao Zhu's eyes fell on the innermost coffin. The coffin was new, and inside was a small zombie that was brought back from the Temple of the Earth. For no reason, Zhao Zhu had such a hunch in his heart, and immediately ran a few steps forward to the coffin, and pushed open the lid of the coffin. Zhao Zhu immediately took a deep breath. Hi, Chen Hong, the problem has been found. When Chen Hong heard the words, she also ran quickly. After seeing the scene in the coffin, her complexion changed dramatically. At this time, the little zombie that was lying in the coffin was covered with red hair all over his body. The little zombie's face became more distorted and hideous, and the talisman paper attached to the little zombie's forehead also looked shriveled. As if it will fall at any time, the body of the little zombie has begun to tremble slightly. Obviously this talisman can't hold it down. Red-haired zombie, no wonder, the evil spirit in the red-haired zombie is 100 times stronger than the evil spirit in other zombies. He is preparing to raise the red hair here, and the evil spirit naturally affects the nearby corpses, making them all follow suit. Dead. Don't talk nonsense, is there a way to fix this little thing? I don't have many options, but there is a talisman that I might try. I have to use fresh human blood. You give me some blood, I will draw the talisman later, so I have to concentrate. If I bleed myself I won't be able to draw a sign in a while. Give me the knife. Zhao Zhu stretched out his hand to Chen Hong without hesitation. Taking the dagger, Zhao Zhu directly cut a big hole in his palm, and blood immediately flowed out. Chen Hong's 10 fingertips were all dipped in Zhao Zhu's blood, and then he drew a spell directly on the little zombie. When the blood was a little dry, Chen Hong directly shouted, "Not enough blood, squeeze a little more." Zhao Zhu took a deep breath, and his other hand began to desperately squeeze the injured palm. For a while, more blood gushed out, and he bared his teeth in pain. Chen Hong continued to draw the talisman. When she was about to finish the last stroke to make the entire talisman take effect, the talisman in front of the little zombie's forehead burned directly, and the little zombie's eyes were instantly filled with blood. That hatred, that resentment is terrifying. And at the same time, the little zombie's body began to move, which directly prevented Chen Hong from being able to concentrate on finishing the last stroke. Hold it down, I'm still short. Chen Hong shouted to Zhao Zhu. At this time, Zhao Zhu once again showed his super courage and decisiveness. He jumped directly into the coffin, his knees merged, and his hands pressed down. The little zombie tried to get up several times, but Zhao Zhu pressed him back. But Zhao Zhu also clearly felt that the resistance of the little zombie was getting stronger and stronger. He had a premonition that he was about to be ejected. At the same time, the smell on the body of the little zombie was getting heavier and heavier. Zhu could no longer breathe normally, and even if he only inhaled a little smell, he still felt the pain of burning in his lungs. Now, I can only hope that Chen Hong can complete the talisman as soon as possible, and that the talisman can really take effect, otherwise both of them will probably die in this righteous village. With the help of Zhao Zhu, Chen Hong finally completed the last stroke, and the little zombie immediately burst out with a dark red light, like a net, tying it tightly, and then the little zombie became hotter and hotter. Like a soldering iron, Zhao Zhu quickly jumped out with his hands on the edge of the coffin. The inside of his calf was slightly burnt, and the trousers and some flesh were already connected together. Is this useful or useless? Zhao Zhu didn't have time to consider his injury. Probably, it works. Chen Hong seemed to be unsure. However, it turns out that this shattering talisman drawn with Zhao Zhu's blood still worked, and the effect was not bad. The little zombies continued to emit green smoke, and the coffins were already scorched and crispy, so they said wow. It shattered with a sound, and the red hair that had just risen on the little zombie melted into blood and evaporated, and a small pit was corroded on the ground, and the little zombie itself slowly turned into a pile of white powder. The Manchu official uniform outside is of good quality. It should be made of special materials. It is still intact, but its owner has completely disappeared from the world. At the same time, the other coffins in Yizhuang also became quiet at this moment, and the zongzi that had almost sticked out a paw seemed to retract their hands weakly, and cheated the corpse halfway. The moment still stopped. Hey, hey! Both Zhao Zhu and Chen Hong let out deep breathing sounds. Obviously, the pressure on the two of them was really great before. Fortunately, the problem has been solved now, and the crisis has come to an end for the time being. There is some wormwood in the yard, smoke it, otherwise the corpse poison here is too heavy. Chen Hong said. Okay, let's go, I can't go anymore. Zhao Zhu sat on the straw pile with pursed lips. The sides of his legs were already red and blood-stained, obviously the burns were serious. You rest first, take care of yourself, I'll go. Chen Hong went out to prepare wormwood by herself. Zhao Zhu originally wanted to cut the trousers and wounds while the blood was still dry, and finally thought that Chen Hong said that when the task time is up to return to the real world, he is still a full-bearded and full-tailed self, so he does not plan to do so. Anyway, there is still one day. It will be over in a short period of time. Even if the wound is not treated with pus or something, it will not die in a short time anyway. Drink of water. Chen Hong held a bundle of wormwood in her left hand and a sea bowl in her right hand. He took the bowl and drank the water in it. Zhao Zukai felt that his body was a little more comfortable. Although there were still pains in several parts of his body, it was still within the tolerable range. You rest tonight, I'll keep watch. Chen Hong said. Zhao Zhu was injured after bleeding so much, and it was almost impossible to keep watch. That's hard work for you. Zhao Zhu was not polite, he just lay down and closed his eyes to rest. While in a daze, Zhao Zhu heard a sound, the task is completed, reward 1,700 points, and return to the real world. His body was shocked, and Zhao Zhu immediately woke up and found himself lying on the bed at home. He looked at his palms and thighs again, and found that all the previous injuries were gone, and he recovered as well as ever. This is really his home, not a hypnotized world. Zhao Zhu can still distinguish this point. He habitually groped for his mobile phone by the bedside. The mobile phone was full, but before Zhao Zhu the saved group number is still there. Search for the group number in the group list, 1618666011. The search result is a group with a head portrait of a weird skeleton head, the skeleton finger in front of it, the eyes seem to be staring at you, bringing a kind of indescribable weird. Click to apply to enter. As for the reason for the application, Zhao Zhu did not fill in, the efficiency was very fast, and the application was approved. Then, the group news vibrated. Haha, another newcomer is here. Welcome to the newcomer. What I just said, the group owner just deleted the old Zhao people from the group. Since the old Zhao people died, there will definitely be new people joining the group to fill up the number. Newcomer, welcome, I hope you can live longer. Which city is the newcomer in? It's a handsome guy. If you're close, I'll go look for you, sister, and let you have a good time. Su Xian, you're arrogant again, you slut, everyone else is dead, why aren't you dead? You'll be promoted to administrator after a few more tasks. Yeah, brother Hu, you have to show some respect to others, or when I become an administrator after 10 tasks, I'll give you permission. Oh, I'm so scared. Newcomer, you can go to the private group owner, go to the group owner to check and exchange coupons and strengthen, haha. In addition, you are welcome to our big family. Our purpose is, although we can't be born in the same year, the same month, the same day, but there is a chance to die in the same year, the same month, the same day. This person's font has a blood red effect, and his sarcastic tone makes Zhao Zhu feel uncomfortable. From a psychological point of view, this person should have passed the initial stage. The fear of him have gone to the extreme of self-destruction and indulgence, a bit like the kind of soldier who has joined the army and fought in the war. Zhao Zhu scanned the group card of this person again. His name was Xiang's Heike, and he was not an administrator. There are 10 administrators in this group, and 1 group owner. They are at the top of the group list. The ID of the group owner is YY. He uses a cute-looking cat as his avatar. The following is a list of administrators. The avatars are also all kinds of strange, some are cute, some are pretending to be deep, some are scenic, and the styles are different. Most of them are QQ members. All of this seems to be no different from an ordinary book friend group. Of course, after experiencing the world of zombie horror web text task world, Zhao Zhu will never think that this group is really a book friend group. In fact, there is an atmosphere that is beyond that of ordinary groups. There are people talking and chatting constantly on the screen, but the tone and the way they speak have a kind of hysteria and determination, or rather a kind of madness, like a group of outlaws getting together and getting too early with each other. It tore off the disguise that people wear when they live in society. Zhao Zhu clicked on the avatar of the group owner YY, and sent a message to YY through the group chat. "Hello, group leader." "Hello, newcomer." YY's reply was incredible. Almost as soon as Zhao Zhu's message was sent out, the reply message arrived. I don't know why, when facing the chat box with YY, Zhao Zhu felt so nervous that he couldn't breathe. He was wearing the pajamas were lying on the bed at home. This time, the collar of the pajamas was pulled away, and he took a deep breath before picking up the phone screen again and typing, "Can you inquire and exchange coupons here?" Zhao Zhu coupon, 1600 story reward, none special permissions, none exchange record, there is no exchange record. YY's reply was still so fast, Zhao Zhu licked his lips and continued to reply, "Excuse me, how should I use these coupons? Everyone will get the side story and coupons they deserve after completing the task and returning to the real world. The side story is divided into 8 levels of S/A/B/C/D/E, and each high-level side story can be decomposed into 3 secondary side stories, and 3 secondary side stories. Then you can synthesize an advanced side story, that is, if you get a tier side story this time, it can be decomposed into 3 A-tier side stories. However, it should be noted that when the advanced side story is divided into secondary side stories, it is free, but when 3 secondary side stories are combined into a high-level side story, you need to pay an additional 1000 coupons. All exchanges in the group can be divided into 4 categories: bloodline, secret method, technology, entertainment. Lineage, the ability to evolve and change at the genetic level to become another species. Secret technique, all exercises that can be practiced and exchange of items. Technology, based on science, many weapons and equipment are extended. Entertainment, entertainment products, non-living bodies, with super-era and lower technology levels. Specifically, looking at the list of exchange and enhancement lists on the screen, Zhao Zhu felt that the blood flow in his body could not help but speed up. At this time, he couldn't help but think that Chen Hong was in the zombie quest world. The scene of using that kind of movement and runes to deal with zombies, it seems that that kind of ability and props are exchanged in this way. At this time, Zhao Zhu found out that he had a friend request. Anyway, he still needed to think about how to use the coupons. Zhao Zhu didn't plan to reply to YY immediately, so he switched out of the chat box and saw that the friend request was a woman from Liaoning. Her age is 26 years old. If nothing else, it should be Chen Hong. After clicking agree and adding the other party as a friend, Zhao Zhu directly sent a message, "Chen Hong. That's right, it's me. Oh, I still owe you 500 points, how should I give it to you?" Through YY, just tell him. Okay, alright. The reason why Zhao Zhu fulfilled the agreement so readily and gave the 500 points to Chen Hong was not because of his personal qualities. After reading YY's exchange and strengthening list, Zhao Zhu had a deeper understanding of the importance of points. I know, but Chen Hong is a veteran who has experienced several horror online literature worlds. The absolute value of her experience and other help is even far more than 500 points. Reclicking on YY's chat box, Zhao Zhu sent a message, "Group owner, transfer my 500 points to Chen Hong." After sending it, Zhao Zhu realized that Chen Hong's QQ name was not his real name. Just when he was about to copy Chen Hong's QQ name to YY, he found that YY replied directly, the transfer of coupons is successful, you still have 1,100 coupons left. Zhao Zhu was stunned for a moment, then Chen Hong sent another message, I received the coupon, honest good boy. Zhao Zhu sent Chen Hong a smiley face, and then asked, I still have 1,100 coupons on hand. Give me some advice. I should exchange and strengthen something. Don't worry, it will be about a month, maybe 10 days, and it will wait until your next horror online world. The group owner will send an announcement in the group in advance to notify the name theme of the horror world and the participants in the group. Your hand, there are only a few coupons in it, there is no matching plot, and no bloodline can be strengthened. The lowest bloodline must be at least a level plot plus 1,000 coupons, so you can only exchange some props to use, and what props to exchange. You still have to wait until your next horror world theme comes out before deciding, just like me this time, because I saw the notice in the group in advance and knew it was the zombie horror web world, so I exchanged a lot of talismans before entering the world, and also exchanged the body method to deal with zombies. Zhao Zhu said that he was lucky, if he had directly exchanged the coupons before, and exchanged the props that did not match the next mission world, then he would really want to cry without tears. After all, his family is really too thin. Okay, I understand, I understand. Well, let's see, I still have some extra props here. If you need them in the next horror online world, I can lend you them. Well, thank you. Zhao Zhu threw the phone on the bed, went to the bathroom to wash up, and checked the time again. It was almost 11 o'clock. At this time, the phone also rang. Zhao Zhu wiped his face with a towel and walked back to the bedroom. On the phone, the caller indicated that it was Zhu Wangkai, a distant relative of Zhao Zhu. After the little girl graduated from the health school, it was Zhao Zhu who found a relationship and let her enter the second city hospital as a nurse. Hello. Zhao Zhu answered the phone. Hey, brother Zhu, I heard that you are taking a break today. What's the matter? Are you feeling unwell? Zhu Wangkai's voice is very sweet. When Zhu Wangkai's mother brought Zhu Wangkai to look for Zhao Zhu also saw that the girl was really good looking, and then used his relationship to help her arrange work. After all, although the two sides are relatives, but basically, there is no blood relationship, otherwise Zhu Wangkai's family will not use Zhao Zhu to find Zhao Zhu, they can directly find any of Zhao Zhu's parents, and Zhao Zhu's parents, one is the director of the military hospital, the rank of Major General, and the mother is a family member. Director of a large private hospital. I'm just feeling a little tired. Please take a break and sleep in. As Zhao Zhu was dealing with it, he knew it in his heart. It seemed that even if he entered the world of horror web articles, his social network would not think that something had happened to him, even if it was himself. If he died, he might have died so unnoticed. Brother Zhu, you are still smart, hehe, can I invite you to dinner at noon? My mother told me to thank you. Zhu Wangkai said with a bit of a whining voice, she is actually quite unconfident in front of Zhao Zhu, because Zhao Zhu is handsome, capable and has a good family condition, so he does not lack women at all. Auntie, I'm embarrassed anymore. Okay, you're still at work, right? I'll go directly to the second hospital to pick you up. Well, brother Zhu, see you soon. See you or leave. After hanging up the phone, Zhao Zhu changed into a blue shirt and a pair of light blue jeans, took the car keys, went to the garage and drove out of the villa. Zhao Zhu's villa was not very far from the second city courtyard, and there was a green light along the way. He was very lucky. After a quarter of an hour, the car drove to the parking lot of the second city courtyard. After checking the time, about half an hour before the hospital got off work, Zhao Zhu simply got out of the car and walked into the outpatient building. Zhu Wangkai was working as an assistant nurse in the pediatrics department. In the spring and summer, there were quite a few children with colds and fevers, and there were parents holding their children in the corridors, so Zhao Zhu just stood at the corner of the stairs and waited, and he didn't plan to join the pile of sick people. At this time, a man about 25 or 6 years old hurriedly ran from below with a child in his arms, pushed the others away, and shouted directly at the door of the consultation room, "Doctor, doctor, my son has a fever, come and see." The man's voice was very high and loud, and he was a little arrogant. The parents who were pushed aside and cut in line frowned, but no one said anything for the time being. A nurse came out of the outpatient room, reached out and touched the child's forehead. It didn't feel very serious, so she said, "Go to register first, and then go to the next door to take the temperature. It seems that there are still patients to take care of." After the nurse finished speaking, she turned around and entered the consultation room. However, in the eyes of this man, he looked down on his attitude completely, and the man immediately shouted, "Mom, let's show it to my son first." He raised his legs at the same time, facing the nurse who turned and walked inside. The waist was kicked down with a kick, and the nurse let out a scream, and the whole person was kicked a few meters away and fell on the floor tile of the consultation room. "What are you doing? This is a hospital, how can you beat someone here?" A young female nurse rushed out angrily and yelled at the man who beat the person. You read www.youcanshu. It was Zhu Wangkai who asked Zhao Zhu to come over for dinner. Little forced, the thing that is raised is to be slapped. The man held his son in his left hand, and slapped Zhu Wangkai's face with a slap in the face with his right hand. Zhu Wangkai was slapped against the wall, and the corner of his mouth was broken, overflowing blood. The surrounding parents are busy taking their children away from here, and some fathers have no intention of getting ahead at this time. After all, this man's posture is also a ruthless master. Maybe he is still in the society, and no one dares to meddle in his own business. Trouble. Several doctors in the consultation room also came over, but they seemed to be afraid of the man's ruthlessness, so he only dared to talk from a distance to persuade the man, and an older doctor did it directly. "Peacemaker, the child's illness is important, hurry up, send the child to me first, don't delay." Only then did the man snorted contentedly, and without looking at Zhu Wangkai, who was drawn to the corner of his mouth to bleed, he walked to the consultation room with the child in his arms. However, at this moment, a hand grabbed his left arm. The man only felt his left arm numb. The child who was originally holding his left hand fell off his arm and fell to the ground. The child immediately when I cried, it was obviously painful to eat, but the child didn't land on the head first, but the legs first, and the height was not high, so it would hurt for a while at most, but there would be nothing else. Zhao Zhu stood by the door of the outpatient room at this moment, looked at the man beside him, smiled, spread his hands, and said with an obviously insincere apology, "I'm sorry, this is an accident, I promise you Mum's virginity." In fact, Zhao Zhu is not a master of keeping his own feet. He has also practiced Sanda for a long time. When he was abroad, at his level, he can actually continue to study abroad or go to a top spiritual research institute abroad to engage in research work. But because he came across a scene of a foreign professor trying to a Chinese female student, Zhao Zhu directly beat the foreign professor to death. Although he was released on bail at home, it was obviously difficult to get along outside. It is very difficult for a person who has a criminal record abroad to become a doctor again, especially a psychiatrist, but Zhao Zhu doesn't have to worry that he has no way out anyway. After returning to China, his mother arranged everything for him. Now the mental hospital where Zhao Zhu works is actually controlled by his mother. Maybe after a year or two, after Zhao Zhu is familiar with the situation and some procedures there, he will become the director of that psychiatric hospital is also a light-hearted thing. You. The man pointed at Zhao Zhu, but as soon as he uttered a word, there was a very clear pop. Zhao Zhu slapped the man's face without any ambiguity, but he didn't spare a single bit of strength. Zhao Zhu has a lot of experience in fighting, especially this kind of sudden fight. As long as you take the first shot and get the upper hand, you can't hesitate and be vague. Putting the opponent down, let's talk about it. The scene in the Kung Fu movie where you punch the opponent and then step back to let the opponent relax and then talk to each other a few words is almost invisible in the real fight scene. Was killed. After a slap, Zhao Zhu followed with a heavy punch and hit the back of the man's head. Then Zhao Zhu grabbed the man's shoulders with both hands, exerted force with one leg, and pressed his knees heavily on the man's lower abdomen. The man seems to have just eaten something. This one directly spit out some undigested food, and at the same time fell on his back to the ground. If he hadn't undergone special training for endurance, his body would be greeted by so many times. Going down will definitely be unbearable. The man's child was still crying on the ground. It wasn't a big deal when he fell, and the child sat up by himself, but he seemed to be so frightened that he cried again after seeing his father being beaten like this. The child's cry didn't touch Zhao Zhu much. His eyes wandered in the aisle. He went straight to the trash can, picked up the broom leaning on it, and then waved the broom against the wall. Shooting, the first section of the broom fell off, leaving only a metal broom handle, about 1 meter long, which was quite comfortable. Mom, fuck, boy, don't leave if you have the guts, I'll call someone. The man also just recovered his strength, staggered to his feet, and took out the phone from his pocket. However, before the phone number was called, Zhao Zhu's stick was directly slapped on his face. The man let out a scream that was many times more painful than before, and fell to the ground with his face covered. Without any effort, he directly let the other party's face see light, like opening a sauce shop. Red and black liquid flowed out, and the bridge of the nose should be directly interrupted by Zhao Zhu. Call someone? Come on, you fight, fight, I told you to pretend in front of Lao Tzu, I told you to pretend in front of Lao Tzu, I let you pretend, you continue to pretend. While yelling, Zhao Zhu kept waving the stick and slapped the man fiercely. The savage force made everyone around him avoid it. The children covered their eyes, and some parents did too. I dare not look any further. In the eyes of everyone, this scene is clearly that a small gangster meets a more ruthless gangster, and the two are directly pinched in the hospital. The nurses and doctors next to them were also stunned. They were basically frightened by Zhao Zhu's ruthlessness. Only Zhu Wangkai, when she saw that the man was beaten by Zhao Zhu, even the cry of pain began to weaken. Finally woke up, rushed forward and hugged Zhao Zhu's waist and shouted, "Don't beat him, don't beat him, he's about to be beaten to death by you, he's about to be beaten to death by you." Zhao Zhu's body was shaken, and he took a deep breath. He glanced at the guy who was lying on the ground and was almost knocked unconscious. He threw the stick directly on the ground, then turned around and said to Zhu Wangkai, "It's time for you to get off work. Go and change your clothes. I'll wait for you in the car." This. Zhu Wangkai was a little stunned. She beat people like this and changed clothes to eat? Go quickly. Zhao Zhu urged. Okay. Zhu Wangkai didn't think about it anymore. She turned around and left to go to the locker room. Zhao Zhu walked to the corner of the corridor. There were 7 or 8 security guards standing there. The leader had a scar on his face. He was about the same age as Zhao Zhu. When he saw Zhao Zhu coming over, the scarred face hurriedly joined. Go up and hand Zhao Zhu a cigarette. Zhao Zhu didn't even look at it, he just threw the pod in his hand away and said, "You can handle the matter here. Don't worry, brother Zhao, brother, I'm sure I will do it without any leakage, so you can go to dinner." Zhao Zhu smiled, reached out and patted Scarface's face. Scarface was not annoyed, but proud of it. It seemed that being able to be photographed by Zhao Zhu like this was something to be proud of. Zhu Wangkai quickly changed her clothes and walked over. Zhao Zhu waved to her, then directly took Zhu Wangkai's hand and walked down the stairs. Scarface respectfully waited for Zhao Zhu's figure to leave the stairs completely, then wiped the sweat from his face and said, "Damn it, give me some light on the tricks, Nurse Zhu, Don't make any more decisions. A few security guards on the side agreed together. Let's go, carry the dead thing to the ward, and then go to someone to make a copy of the surveillance just now, and we will say something when we go to the police station. What about the child? You're stupid, the child has a fever, let the doctors take care of it by themselves, can you go and treat the disease? After getting into the car, Zhao Zhu fastened his seat belt, took out a pack of wet wipes from the box in the front of the car, opened it, and wiped his face. At this time, he felt that the originally hot emotions gradually cooled down. Zhao Zhu usually doesn't fight less, but he has never had a posture that completely slaps people to death like just now. Zhao Zhu also knows that since he entered the damned world of terrorist web articles after that, the negative emotions accumulated in my heart erupted. These emotions include fear, anxiety, etc. The reason why Zhao Zhu is so calm in the mission world is because he is a psychiatrist and can temporarily cover up those unnecessary emotions, but not just suppress, so the man just now could only unfortunately become a vent for Zhao Zhu's emotions. Of course, he brought it on himself. Zhu Wangkai also got into the car and asked with concern, "Brother Zhu, are you all right?" Zhao Zhu stretched out her hand and touched Zhu Wangkai's cheek lightly. Zhu Wangkai was stunned. She didn't seem to expect Zhao Zhu to do this directly, but she herself didn't know what to do. Should she avoid it or acquiesce? Does your face still hurt? Zhu Wangkai was slapped by the man just now. It doesn't hurt anymore. Zhu Wangkai pursed her lips and replied, while Zhao Zhu's hand was still on her face. You dressed beautifully today. Zhu Wangkai listened and remained silent. Indeed, she deliberately chose clothes to dress herself up today. After all, Zhao Zhu's status is higher than her own. Self-abasement. She wears a pink shirt with a light green shawl on her top, and a khaki skirt with flesh-colored stockings on her legs. With that pretty face, it's really tempting. Just forget what happened just now. It's all right. Now you should think about where we should go to eat. Ah, whatever, Brother Zhu, you can go wherever you want. I'll pay the bill. This time, I asked you to do it. And just now, you helped me. All right then, let's go to your house. Hey? Go to my house. Zhu Wangkai felt that she had not changed her mind. My mother is at work, and no one cooks at home, so I can't. Didn't you invite me to choose your guests? I'll go to your house to eat you. When Zhu Wangkai heard this, she blushed and bit her lip, not knowing how to answer. Hee, just kidding, let's go and have Korean barbecue at noon. Zhao Zhu started the car. At this moment, the phone made a clear ringtone. Zhao Zhu stopped the car that had just started, picked up the phone, and said terrorist. Netwen group message popped up directly, this is a group announcement, the world of horror web literature The Ghost Possessed will open in a week, with participants, Xiang's Haiki, Sujet, Lu Yuxi. Zhao Zhu glanced at him, but he didn't see his name, so he was relieved. Yu reading www. Although yuyuganshu.com had long expected that he who had just finished a terrifying mission would not take the next one so soon, but after confirming that he did not have him, he felt a lot more at ease. After looking at the list again, there were only 3 words Xiang's Haiki. Zhao Zhu is still a little impressed, and I saw him talking to him in the group this morning. Habitually, Zhao Zhu found Xiang's Haiki in the group member list, clicked on his avatar, and saw his profile. The location on the profile was actually in the same city as Zhao Zhu. Hey, brother, we are in the same city, do you want to go out for a meal together? After sending the news, Zhao Zhu restarted the car, and it was only 10 minutes away. The car stopped in front of a high-style barbecue restaurant. When he got off, Zhao Zhu received a QQ message. It was Xiang's Haiki replied, "Dude, you're so interesting. You know that I'm about to kneel soon, and you invite me to eat a guillotine. Come on, tell me where, I want to turn grief and anger into appetite and eat enough. This message was followed by a string of crying expressions. UU Reading welcomes all book lovers to come and read. The latest, fastest, and most popular serial works are all in UU Reading. UU Reading. Is the novel free for a limited time? Great God exclusive interview? Famous new book debut? There are also lucky draws every week, Apple Watch, Q coins, starting coins are waiting for you to get. Don't hesitate, open WeChat, scan the QR code on the left, follow it easily, and don't miss it. Seong's Haiki is an unremarkable little fat man with a rather naive and funny appearance, with a small flat head, a backpack, and a t-shirt with Winnie the Pooh printed on his upper body. After entering the store, he was led by the waiter to Zhao Zhu's box. Looked a little restrained, but Zhu Wangkai pulled a chair for him and let him sit down. Wan Qi, go pick a sheep. Zhao Zhu said. The ingredients in this barbecue restaurant are absolutely fresh, and customers can choose live animals to slaughter and get meat directly. Of course, Zhao Zhu did this because he wanted Zhu Wangkai to leave for a while, so that he could talk to Seong's Haiki. Zhu Wangkai walked out of the box in response. After Seong's Haiki watched her leave, he said to Zhao Zhu with a hint of envy, "Dude, I'm so lucky." Seong's Haiki can also see that Zhu Wangkai is not Zhao Zhu's wife and girlfriend, at most a friend, but whether it is that kind of bed friend, I don't know, but looking at the woman's obedient attitude towards Zhao Zhu, I want to come. It is also Ren Zhengke. Haha, my name is Zhao Zhu. Zhao Zhu still introduced himself. Well, I know, you were in the mission announcement last time, and you went with Chen Hong to Zombie, right? Seong's Haiki said. That's right. Zhao Zhu nodded. Alas, yours is relatively simple. With Chen Hong here, it is not difficult to complete it, but the task I am about to do is difficult. How difficult is it? Generally speaking, except for a few special cases, the difficulty of the task is related to the number of people participating in the task. Your task is only 2 people, and the difficulty is not high. This time, it is a group task of 15 people, according to the general situation. Said, it is estimated that no more than 5 will survive. Zhao Zhu heard the words, raised the teacup in front of the table, and said, "You must be among these 5 people. By your auspicious words, I am also a memorizer. I have done 3 missions before, and each time it turned out to be a group mission with a high mortality rate of more than 15 people." Seong's Haiki took a teacup and touched Zhao Zugzu. Sighed. Zhao Zhu almost choked on the tea in his mouth, and when he looked at the little fat man in front of him, he could see a different taste. The man on the opposite side was the connoisseur who was really pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. Surviving in a group mission and occupying a place in at most 5 survival places in a row is purely based on luck. It is estimated that those who died in the mission world may be alive. I'll have to rely on you to cover me in the future. Zhao Zhu took out a card from his wallet and handed it to Seong's Haiki. This card has 100,000, and the password is 66, which is a greeting gift. Seong's Haiki accepted the card in front of him with a smile, and then said to himself, "You buddy, you are also unlucky, you are so rich, and you were selected into that group, this wonderful life, haven't enjoyed it yet." Zhao Zhu shook his head, "Actually, it's okay, it's quite exciting." This time it was Seong's Haiki's turn to be choked. "There was someone who said the same thing as you before, in front of me." "And what about that person?" "Dead, died horribly." "This example is very unlucky." "Yes, it is indeed very unlucky, but I also received your money after all, although I don't know if I can survive the next mission, I don't know if the money has life to spend, but I still have to remind you, buddy, every mission is related to your life and death, but it's not a novel plaything that you guys thought it was a novelty. If you don't pay attention, it's really over, really over." Seong's Haiki's expression was very serious, which didn't quite match his image. After saying these words, Xiang's Heike returned to his smiling expression and rubbed his hands together, probably waiting for the barbecue to come. Thank you for your reminder, I will remember it. It's easy to talk to you, hehe, I'm the one to talk to you. Xiang's Heike let out a haha. However, I'm very curious. Everyone's information is public. Well, at least there are many people who publish their information in the QQ column like you. Aren't you afraid that someone will take risks for the so-called coupons? Zhao Zhu asked tentatively. Road. This question is very practical and cannot be avoided at all. Ordinary readers will naturally have nothing to do, but the readers of terrorist web articles will never be so simple. Zhao Zhu just tried to turn to Chen Hong. Your own coupons, then, other people can definitely do the same. Wouldn't it be good to send someone to kidnap other group members in the real world? Your question is not really a problem, because there are administrators in the group. Xiang's Heike replied indifferently. Administrator. Yes, you can become an administrator after completing 10 tasks, and you can become a freelancer after completing 20 tasks. The upper limit of group administrators is 10, so it should be someone who has completed more than 10 quests and still failed to become an admin because no other admins have died or left the group. However, the only thing that cannot be denied is that each administrator is not simple. The group seems to be loose, and there is no taboo for everyone to chat, but they have their own set of rules. Who dares to have bad thoughts on other group members? Well, what I mean is that in the real world, if you use your power in the real world to deal with other people in the group owner will have induction, and then issue a clearance order that can only be executed in the real world. In the form of rewards, those who dare to break the rules are strangled and eliminated. Generally, the administrators who take such tasks are administrators, because they have experienced a lot of tasks, and they are strengthened, and their strength and means are even more incredible to ordinary people. I was in the group. Later, I used the energy of my family to do something and broke the rules. After the group owner issued a clearance order, the head of this guy was taken down by an administrator living in Beijing that night. A lot of people died at one time. No matter how much protection the agents and Zongnanhai bodyguards did, they still failed. So, what about the administrators? What if the administrators break the rules themselves? This may be solved by other administrators, and the group administrators themselves have their own rules to abide by. Under normal circumstances, they will not take the initiative to break any rules. What they have to do is to maintain the rules. While maintaining in the process of the rules, you will also benefit from it. Also, there is actually a group friend near here, but he is a bit strange. He is a junior high school student, but he has completed 7 tasks. He is a very powerful person. If you want, you can also visit him and chat with him to promote the relationship, because I will probably kneel in the next mission world, you know. Okay. Can you tell me his address? He has no information in QQ, and the one who sent him QQ messages did not reply. He is a very lonely person, but the last time I saw him in the mission world, he was wearing the uniform of Kaiming Middle School, which should be there. Go to school, you can go there to find him. As for his appearance, it's actually quite ordinary, but it's a real ruthless person to be ruthless. Last time I was trapped in a cave with him, he was the first to start eating dead human flesh. Yes, we all had nausea, and he was the only one who ate it with relish. Oh, by the way, I haven't told you his name is Zhu Jianping. Anyway, buddy, you must be able to find him. At this time, Zhu Wangkai also came back, opened the door and said with a smile, I picked the fattest sheep. After the meal, Xiang's Heike said goodbye directly and left, thinking that he also had a lot of things to prepare. After all, it was less than a week before his next mission. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Before the meal, Zhao Zhu sent a message asking someone to check on Zhu Jianping's news. Now they have sent Zhu Jianping's class and home address. I'll take you back to work. Zhao Zhu said to Zhu Wangkai, who was sitting in the side driver's seat. Hearing this, Zhu Wangkai's face showed a trace of loneliness and disappointment. In fact, she was already prepared not to go to work in the afternoon, of course, not because she wanted to go to bed with Zhao Zhu, but because she wanted to spend more time with Zhao Zhu. Let's watch movies and go shopping together, but since Zhao Zhu has said so, she can only nod her head and say yes. Zhu Wangkai was sent back to the hospital. Zhao Zhu didn't get out of the car, he restarted the car and went to Kaiming Middle School. The guard at the entrance of the middle school looked at Zhao Zhu's luxury car and didn't dare to stop him. He didn't need to show any documents, and drove in directly campus. Now is the time of class. Zhao Zhu found the classroom where Zhu Jianping was. However, the more he approached the classroom, the more he felt that his head was a little groggy, as if he was about to fall asleep. This feeling is a bit like encountering Mao Xia. Zhao Zhu began to counter-hypnotize himself. After about 5 minutes, the strong sleepiness was finally suppressed. Zhao Zhu continued to move forward and came to the classroom window. Was taken aback by the scene inside. In the classroom, all the students were sleeping on the desks, while on the podium, a beautiful female teacher propped her arms on the blackboard, her back was raised, her skirt was lifted, revealing a black stockings and the spring light inside, and a student in a school uniform is holding the two towering on the front of the female teacher's chest with both hands and kneading arbitrarily, and the lower body is constantly moving in and out of it.